What does the accident of a Russian submarine named the Kursk in the year 2000, the sinking of that submarine, and the subsequent passing of 118 sailors have in common with your business? It's simple. Face the facts, ask for help, trust those around you. And why don't we face the facts, ask for help, or trust those around us? We don't have enough courage to acknowledge a weakness, or our ego is too big. Welcome to JTInTheRaw show 216, where I chew the thin on business, and after 31 years in business, I have just a few thins to chew, and I reckon today's show is going to be a dead set ripper that will resonate with so many people. It will be one of the most watched shows. So if you get value at any stage during this show, I would love you to hit me with a love heart, or feel free to share at any stage, but particularly at the end. Morning Susie, morning Colette, Mira, good morning Carol, up very early over there in the wild, wild west of Western Australia. Hope everybody is doing great. And today's show comes about, Frosty, go the riff. I'm backing the Cats and the Storm this weekend. Sorry everybody, the Cats and the Storm, although I would like to see the riff win. This came about this week as we were having a big discussion in a few of my roundtables around building trust within the workplace and how important trust is between team members, trust is between the customer and the supplier of the good, and how we can build that trust. And it reminded me of the story of the Kursk. So let's go back to the 12th of August in the year 2000. And we're in the Barents Sea, just off the Russian coast. And there's a Russian naval exercise going on. In fact, it's the first Russian naval exercise for a decade. And the Kursk was one of their first nuclear submarines. And here's what happened. There was an explosion, a small explosion underwater. And the ships above the water heard it. They heard the news, or heard the sound. But then there was a second explosion, and that second explosion was much greater, much louder, much more powerful. In fact, it had a seismic reaction. It was picked up on those earthquake monitors. That's how big that explosion was. So the reality is, the facts is that there'd been an explosion, that something had happened under the water. And now here's where things get murky. This is where things start to now compare with many businesses and what happens in our teams and our departments. First off, the Russian Navy did not acknowledge there had been an accident for 6 hours. Let me say that again. The Russian Army had not acknowledged there'd been an accident for 6 hours. It then took 16 hours to locate the submarine. The Russians, they spent 4 days unsuccessfully trying to get to the submarine. During those 4 days, they refused help from a number of governments and a number of navies. On the 5th day, they finally accepted help from the Norwegians and the British. And on the 7th day, the hatch was opened. They got into the submarine. All 118 sailors had died. Now that alone is a sad story. That is alone a sad story that 118 people passed away. The gut-wrenching story, or the gut-wrenching part of this story, is the fact that when they analysed the bodies of the people that passed away, it was identified that if those people had been discovered 16 hours, even within the 4 days, many of them would have still survived. So let's get that something really clear. If the Russians had accepted help, if they trusted other navies to help them, there is a very good chance that more than 118 people would have survived, or a large portion of that 118 would have survived. So how is that relevant to us in business? Well, let's analyse the story. First of all, in business, you must face the facts. You got to face the facts. Are you making sales? Is there money in the bank? Is there a team member that's not pulling their weight? Is the marketing not working? When you face the brutal facts in business, then we can move forward. Then we can try to find a solution. Remember, the Russians did not face those brutal facts that there'd actually been an accident, that their submarine had sunk. Face the brutal facts in business. Number 2, the Russians refused help. Lots of countries offered to help. And I would suggest most of those countries offered to help through goodwill, good integrity, wanting to help human life, not for any other reason. Yet the Russians refused that help. And so when people offer help to you in your department, your team, or your whole business, perhaps you should accept it. Perhaps you should trust them. Perhaps you should ask them questions. Feel confident that they can help you and then accept their help. Sometimes it's very difficult in business to do everything yourself. In fact, I'm going to say, more than sometimes, most times, it's very difficult to do everything yourself. You do need help. Now the Russians, if they'd accepted help, a portion of those 118 people may still have survived that incredible accident. But they didn't ask for help. They refused help. And then the third fact is they didn't trust. They didn't trust. The Russians did not trust the Norwegians, the Brits, the Swedish, the Americans, the Germans. They didn't trust them. And so in business, trust is a really important factor. It's an underlying foundation in the success of every business. In fact, we often don't talk about it. And if we do talk about it, the level of trust that we talk about is superficial. Deep, vulnerable trust. For the Russians to let people in to help them save 118 people's lives, it would have made them vulnerable. People would have seen that they'd had a failure. People would have seen perhaps how their submarines operated or how their navy operated. It would have made them vulnerable to other nations. And yet they felt that that vulnerability was worth way more than the lives of 118 people. Now, I'm not here to criticise whether what the Russians did was right or wrong. I don't know whether I would have done the same thing. But what I can tell you is that when you don't trust people, then it's very difficult to accept their help. So why didn't the Russians do this? Why didn't they face the facts? Why didn't they ask for help? Why did they refuse help? And why did they not trust people? Well, again, same things happen in business. Sometimes our ego is too big. Sometimes our ego is too large to reach out and ask for help. Sometimes we just think we can do it ourselves. I would encourage everybody to leave their ego at the door when your business is in pain, when you're struggling with something. I can guarantee you there is someone in this world who has been through whatever you're going through. The success, the failures of business, someone has been through it. You just got to find that person and they can help you. We know probably that the Russians, their ego is too big, and that was a problem. The second one is that maybe we don't have enough courage to actually acknowledge we have a weakness. We don't have enough courage to acknowledge something has gone wrong. Maybe that's part of the ego thing. But what we need to be in business is extremely honest. Whether we're managing a department, a team, or a full company, honesty and appraisal of our business is critical. When we have the courage to look for the strengths and the weaknesses in our business, and we're prepared to leave our ego at the door, we're prepared to trust people, we're prepared to ask for help, as we face the facts of the business, we can avoid such an experience as the Kursk. Some people will see the headline for this, JTInTheRaw, and they'll think, I don't need to watch that. That's going to be boring. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the success of your business moving forward, Dwayne Wimmer, good morning. Colette, thank you for that love heart. Appreciate that. Stacey, hello. What I can assure you is the business people, the leaders who understand that what happened with the Kursk is a metaphor for business are the ones who will come out of COVID, who will come out of any challenge that's thrown at them with strength, with honor, and they will move forward with their business, their department, and their team. We have to acknowledge the lessons that we can learn from the Kursk. So if you're just joining us, Helen, Jason, good morning, how are you? If you're watching live or on replay, if you got any value out of today's show, love you to hit the share button. Love you to hit me with a love heart, whether you watch live or on replay at any stage. So let me summarize again. The problem, the Kursk problem that occurs in every business is facing the brutal facts. We must face the brutal facts. We cannot refuse help when we need help. And we need to trust. The Russians did not trust. Our ego is not too big to accept that help. And we must have enough courage to accept our weaknesses. If we do those things, we avoid the Kursk syndrome in our business. I hope you enjoyed JTInTheRaw today. I know, Glyn, you've just joined us. Good luck, Glyn, in your brand new job. Wish you all the very best there, mate, and congratulations on a great career at the YMCA in Victoria. JTInTheRaw comes to you same time every single week, usually based on topics that I've uncovered during the course of the week with the clients that I work with and the roundtables that I'm with. And this is definitely a big one that meant a lot to me this week in many of the discussions I had. Avoiding the Kursk. That becomes your challenge moving forward. Hope you enjoyed the show. Catch you same time next week. Catch you on the flip side.